I did not think I was gonna tell this story in a long time. I thought I was gonna wait till I move out, but let's just get into a story about how I got cussed out. This is the worst date I've ever been on, by the way. Where do I begin? This man lived in my apartment. See this guy in the elevator one day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really cute. Or I thought he was when I first saw him, because later on it was a different story. But then I decided to overshare on my Snapchat and say like, oh, I have a cute neighbor. Just talking to my Snapchat like they were my best friends. So eventually he talks to me, and then one day he ends up asking for my number. I give him my number. He's like, let's go to dinner on this day. Tell me why that either that same night or the next day I am going into the elevator. I see this man in the elevator with another girl. Very awkward. Like when he saw me, he looked very awkward. She looked very awkward. Didn't even assume that that could be his girlfriend, because it just was not giving girlfriend like at all. It was giving literally we're just meeting today for the first time. But later on that night he texts me. He's like, I'm sorry, like that was so awkward. Honestly, like I just met that girl today on Tinder. And that should have been where I was like, all right, well, I don't want you. The new and improved me, that's how I would have been. But I don't know what it was. I decided to give him another chance. I was just thinking these men be getting lonely. Whatever, maybe it's like a one-time type of thing. Like, I don't know, right? To be honest with you, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, now looking back, I just still question myself. Going in with my favorite powder, the Huda Beauty one. Day of our date comes around. This man did not text me. It was already like 11 or 12, and I go downstairs. Why do I see him sitting down? It's very awkward. He's very awkward towards me, and I'm just like he looks like he saw a ghost. And I'm like, what do I do at this point? I go on my Snapchat story and I go on a rant about what just happened. Like 10 minutes later, he texts me and he's like, I'm sorry about right now. Like, sorry it was weird. Like, are we still on for tonight, basically? So I told him, like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to cancel. So tell me why. Later in the day, he texts me like, hey, like, you know, I don't want it to be awkward when we see each other. I'm so sorry. I really wanted to take you out. He made an excuse about work, blah, 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 blah. Y ahí voy yo de pendeja. Ahí voy yo de pendeja. And I'm like, hey, like, it's fine. And I ended up giving him another chance. Which, girl, he was an average guy. Like, he was, for me to be doing all this, like, giving him all these chances. So the day comes. He drives us to the place, the restaurant he chose. He didn't even make a reservation. Get there, and they're like, oh, it's gonna be an hour wait. And he ends up saying like, oh, okay, like I know this other place, we can go there. I've heard good things about it. I've never been there, but I've heard good things. I'm like, all right, let's go. We go, we're talking. When somebody's like lying or somebody's just not being themselves, I can easily pick up on that weird vibe about him. So eventually he asked me about where do I see myself in like 5 years, 10 years from now. And I'm like, honestly, like, you know, I just see myself being happy, like raising a family, having children, this and that. And then he's like, oh, but like, what about career-wise? I'm like, sir, is this a job interview? I'm just like, oh, honestly, I don't know where I see myself in terms of my career at that time, because I do want to be able to raise my children. Like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom with my children when I have children, which is not something crazy to ask. When I have kids, I would love to be able to be with them and raise them. He just started crazily agreeing. And he was like, yeah, like, honestly, with my ex-girlfriend, I feel like it really tore us apart, that she was working so much. Like, I really just wanted to take care of her. And I was like, oh, wow, like, that's crazy. But everything felt so fake. And then he drops the bomb on me that he has a kid. I am not looking to date somebody that has a kid. I'm super young, so I'm not really looking to date someone that already has. He starts talking about how he bought his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or whatever and their son a house, and it's like a huge house, like $1 million house. I don't care about you bragging about your money unless you're spending it on me. And I could tell he was lying. Like, I know damn well you're lying. You'd probably be living in a super bougie apartment if that was all true. Nothing was adding up. Later into the date, he tells me that that place that we were at, he's like, oh yeah, I took my ex-girlfriend here on our first date. I'm like, didn't you just say that this was your first time here a little while ago? The whole time I was just waiting on the check to come, like, please come faster because I can't do this. I forgot to mention, when he told me that he has a kid, I told him straight up, you know, like, we can definitely be friends, but I'm just not looking to date somebody that has a kid. And then he tried convincing me like why it was a good idea. But when the check comes, I normally don't go and like rush to take out my card, but that's what I did this time, because I straight up told him like I just want to be friends, so I'm not gonna expect him to pay. So I try to pay and he's like, no, like, you're fine. And I'm just like, okay, well, thank you. Then when we're on our way back to the apartments, all like trying to touch my leg, and I'm just like, oh no, like his hand off my leg. By this point, the vibe is very weird. I think we both know we are not feeling each other. So he drops me off. He ends up saying that he's gonna go like do something, and then I literally see him pull up right afterwards while I was waiting on the elevator. I'm like, and then I post on my story when I get home, I'm like, you guys, the date like was really bad. He was just lying about a bunch of things. I get a text message right afterwards. Guess what? He messages me, what was I lying about? And at this point, I really am like, I should have known. I did think about it. It did cross my mind that he was watching my Snapchat stories, but I was just like, no, it must be a coincidence. Whenever he texts me, like, it must be a coincidence. There's no way. I don't know what happened here, but anyways, he texts me that, and I'm like, why are you watching my stories? And then he's like, of course, like, I'm gonna watch your stories. Like, why are you telling people my business? And he's like, I can't believe you would mischaracterize a date like that. Like, you didn't catch me in any lies. Like, what are you talking about? And I tell him, like, leave me alone. Don't ever talk to me again. He sent me a bunch of messages. He's like, you want a provider? Like, you're this, like, you're that. And then I blocked him. And then right after that, he messages me from a different number. And he's like, you're a gold digger, this and that. Like, I can't believe I wasted money on our date. And I was like, I didn't know you were struggling financially. I will send you my half of the bill if you leave me alone and stop talking to me. And so that is what I did. And he tried to make me send him for the full amount. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. By the way, before I blocked him, he called me a bitch on the other one. And then I told him that. I sent him my part of the bill. And then he kept messaging me, telling me I'm a gold digger, this and that, and literally lying about things that happened on our date. And then the cherry on top, he called me a cunt. And that's it. Now he avoids me at all costs in our apartments.